Hi, tonight's devotional is all about Paul's travels. God chose Paul to spread the good news about Jesus all over the Roman world. Why Paul? First of all, Paul was really smart. Remember, he was a Pharisee, and Pharisees were smart because they spent years studying and memorizing God's laws and the stories of Israel. But Paul was even smarter than the average Pharisee. Paul was like a super Pharisee. Paul spoke Hebrew, the language of Israel, so Paul could talk to everyone in Israel about God and his son Jesus. But Paul also spoke Greek, the language of the Roman Empire, because he had grown up in Tarsus, which was part of the Roman world. There was one more thing that made Paul perfect for this job. He was a Roman citizen. Today, if you're born in a country, you are automatically a citizen of that country. You get the special rights and freedoms of being a citizen of that country. But in Paul's day, it was very special to be a Roman citizen. Very few people in the Roman Empire and almost no Jews were actually citizens. Being a citizen was a huge help to Paul as he began sharing the good news. How? Well, if you were a Roman citizen, you could travel anywhere in the Roman Empire without any trouble at all. So Paul could go anywhere and talk to anyone about Jesus. If Paul was ever arrested for talking about Jesus, he couldn't be killed the way Jesus was killed because he was a Roman citizen. And finally, if a Roman citizen was arrested and put on trial and didn't think the trial was fair, he could appeal to Caesar. The trial would end and he would be taken to Rome to appear before Caesar himself, the king of the whole Roman Empire. There was no bigger king than Caesar, and all Paul had to do to go see him was say, "I appeal to Caesar," which a few years later is exactly what he did. Paul started traveling all over the Roman world telling people about Jesus. Jesus' followers started popping up everywhere. They began meeting together in groups that we now call churches. Soon, there was a new name for these followers of Jesus. Since they wanted to be just like Jesus Christ, people started calling them Christians, which means little Christs. Paul loved telling people about Jesus, even though it didn't always go very well. 2 times, Paul was on a ship that sank in the sea. He was attacked by a group of people who wanted him to stop talking about Jesus. He was bitten by a poisonous snake. He was arrested and thrown in jail. But even in the hard times, Paul was filled with joy. God gave Paul the strength to be happy if he was full or if he was hungry, if he had money or if he had none, if he was free or if he was in prison. No matter what happened, God was with Paul. God was Paul's friend, and Paul was happy. Now, the Pharisees and Sadducees, on the other hand, were not happy. Paul was supposed to be arresting Jesus' followers, and instead, more and more of them were showing up all over the Roman Empire. The Pharisees and Sadducees got the Roman governor to arrest Paul because he was a troublemaker. While Paul was in jail, he discovered the Pharisees were planning to kill him. So Paul decided to do something really bold. Can you guess? "I appeal to Caesar," he said. And sure enough, because he was a Roman citizen, Paul was put on a boat and sent all the way to Rome, the capital of the Roman Empire. Now all Paul had to do was wait for his turn, and he would get to tell Caesar all about Jesus. Caesar, though, was a little busy. Paul sat in a Roman jail waiting to talk to Caesar for at least 2 whole years. What did he do while he waited? What would you do? While he was waiting to meet with Caesar, Paul wrote letters. Lots of letters. Some of which you have probably even read. All right, it says fun facts. Paul took 4 important missionary journeys during his life as a messenger of God's good news. He visited more than 45 cities throughout his ministry of over 30 years. All right, now we're ready for the questions to talk about with your family. Are you ready? What are some reasons God chose Paul to spread the good news? Pause the video and talk about it. Why do you think Paul was able to have joy even though he went through so many hard times? Pause the video and talk about it. Would you pray with me? Dear God, thank you that we can have joy in good times and bad. Show us ways we can joyfully share your good news with others. Amen. All right, I will see you tomorrow. Bye.